It's a shocking death that will spark a war, but how do the final moments of House of the Dragon differ from the book? The final episode of Season 1 of House of the Dragon feels like a powder keg about to be ignited. After Aegon II is crowned king at breakneck speed after the death of King Viserys, events are set in motion that will soon see Westeros engulfed in war. Obviously, Viserys had named his daughter Rhaenyra as heir, and this rapid move to usurp her claim by Alicent Hightower and her father Otto has already created a schism in the lords and ladies of Westeros. However, the coronation of Aegon is not without its hiccups, as Princess Rhaenys manages to free her dragon Meleys, which she uses to crash through the floor of the dragon pit of King's Landing. A rather dramatic way of establishing where Rhaenys' loyalties may lie, Episode 10 picks up in the immediate aftermath, with Rhaenys explaining to Rhaenyra what has just transpired.
The Greens are coming for you, Rhaenyra. And for your children.
Quickly summoning her council, as well as her husband and uncle Daemon, Rhaenyra shows far more restraint than her compatriots, who begin to plan a war of succession pretty much straight away. Unfortunately, Rhaenyra's calm and collective demeanor isn't exactly rewarded later in the episode, as her careful approach to the conflict is shattered by the heedless actions of children. Acknowledging that the faction now known as the Greens has far more soldiers and allies, Rhaenyra dispatches messengers to every corner of Westeros, hoping to shore up support. After ordering her two children, Jacaerys and Lucerys, to head to Winterfell and Storm's End, the two brothers take to their dragons. Lucerys is sent to Storm's End to treat with Borros Baratheon, but he quickly realizes that somebody has beaten him there. Coming face to face with his one-eyed uncle Aemond, Lucerys is unable to convince Borros to lend his support to his family's side, who are now known as the Blacks.
Go home, pup, and tell your mother that the Lord of Storm's End is not some dog that she can whistle up at need to set against her foes.
Realizing that he is ill-prepared for this negotiation, Lucerys attempts to leave. Before he is able to depart, however, Aemond demands that Lucerys cut out his own eye to make up for the wound Lucerys had inflicted on Aemond in their youth. However, Borros doesn't particularly care for this bluster and allows Lucerys to leave. Taking to his young dragon Arax, who is greatly unsettled by the ongoing intense storm, Lucerys begins to fly back to Dragonstone. Soon, however, he realizes that Aemond is in pursuit with Vhagar, the largest and most fearsome dragon in Westeros. Aemond taunts Lucerys from atop his dragon, still demanding his eye, but both children have trouble controlling their dragons on account of them being untested dragon riders. As Aemond's pursuit of Lucerys becomes more and more dire, Lucerys' dragon Arax is visibly shaken, and both dragons appear to be letting their primal instincts take over despite the protests of both riders. As the hunter, Vhagar's size is incredibly apparent, though this doesn't stop Arax from blasting the ancient dragon with fire. This in turn causes Vhagar to release its full fury upon both Arax and Lucerys, and in an instant, both dragon and rider are killed with a ravenous bite from Vhagar. This comes as a surprise to Aemond, who realizes that his actions will have deadly consequences. As shocking as this scene was for viewers, this scene actually has far more nuance than what was presented in Fire and Blood. In the grand scheme of things, this scene is considered a defining moment in the conflict known as the Dance of Dragons, and several different variations of the story are told regarding what happened, but all agreed upon one thing. Lucerys and Arax were tragically undermatched against Aemond and Vhagar, and while you see that Aemond is clearly disturbed by what happened in the show, that's not how it goes down in the book. This is on account of the nature of the way Fire and Blood is written, as a kind of historical document with unreliable narrators. The book portrays the fight as one-sided and very much intentional, with Aemond motivated primarily by revenge. There are several stories told about the aftermath of the fight, with some saying that Arax's head washed ashore, others saying that both Lucerys and Arax were swallowed whole, and one suggesting that Lucerys actually survived but suffered from permanent amnesia. Either way, Lucerys is never found. This change in House of the Dragon makes for a much more dynamic story, which is important considering this moment sparks the Targaryen civil war in Westeros. Although Rhaenyra didn't want to strike the first blow, she was given her wish, albeit at a terrible price. To see Aemond realize his actions will have disastrous consequences clearly shines a new light on the story, and it'll be interesting to see how he'll report the outcome to his family. In an interview with Variety, series co-creator Ryan Condal was asked about why they decided to make Lucerys' death an accident and not intentional. He clarified that even though it is presented as an accident, Aemond still jumped onto his dragon and chased his nephew, so it isn't as clear-cut as a simple mistake. Condal then explained how history itself is messy and how the historians and storytellers of Westeros couldn't actually know what was going through Aemond's head. He added, "This is a war of many cuts that lead to a really, really bloody wound. It adds complexity and nuance to the character that's potentially interesting." Discussing the future of Aemond's story, Condal added, "There's lots of runway to go on with Aemond as a character and the story of the dance. This is his first act as a dragon rider and a warrior, and it's gone very wrong. Now what happens as a result, and how does he respond? Those are the questions I'm interested in as a dramatist." Ultimately, this departure from the source material definitely adds yet another layer to the upcoming conflict and the way both sides will respond and shape the history of Westeros.